some words from the book that are not mine, but they're among my favorite. Written by a lady named Peggy Whitcomb, who wrote about Mrs. Victor Bruce. She found unlimited new destinations in distance divided by time, the infinitely renewable frontier of speed. Her life sends a message to all of us. Don't believe it when they say you can't do it. Go ahead and give it a try. There are no barriers for those who simply will not quit trying. Mary Bruce was born in 1895. Her mother was American, her father was English. She was born and raised, lived her whole life in England. She would have died totally unknown except for a couple of her adventures. I happened, by the merest chance, to read her obituary in the San Francisco Carnivele one morning in 1990. And I was fascinated. I can't tell you why, but I knew that I had to read more about her. I had to find out more about her. She said that she had loved speed from her first day. She could never find a pony that would pull her little Govern's cart fast enough. She loved it when it went fast enough that it dumped her in the ditch. She lived in a very large house to the east of London with her family. Her father was the squire of Cotati Hall. Not terribly wealthy, but had a big house and a lot of good background, as they say. Her mother was an actress from Indiana who had been performing in London when her father saw her on the stage. Now, Mary always claimed that her mother was a great Shakespearean actress, was given all kinds of accolades and so forth. But in my research, I found that the theater that Mary's mother performed in, the Gaiety, was in fact a burlesque house. And maybe they did Shakespeare on Sunday afternoons, I don't know. But Mary was inherited the same gift for exaggeration and drama as her mother had. She loved adventure, she loved speed. When she graduated from pony carts, the next thing she rode was her brother's motorcycle, which got her the distinction of being the first woman cited for a speed violation in England in 1911. She was in and out of speed court in London and surroundings for the next several years. She graduated to motor cars in the early 1920s. And in 1925, she met the Honorable Victor Austin Bruce, who was the first Brit to enter the Monte Carlo Road Rally. The following year, Victor Bruce won the Monte Carlo Rally. Mary was waiting at the finish line and they were married. The following year, Mary Bruce drove the Monte Carlo Rally. There was a field of about 58. She came in sixth, beating out all of Europe's top male drivers and winning the Women's Cup. They went on after the Monte Carlo rally, which was passenger, to do a circle around the Mediterranean, back through Spain, across North Africa, through Spain, and back home. She started her career in the early 20s of racing automobiles. Automobiles were fascinating, but she went on and started doing speedboat racing. The 20s was a period where record setting was the name of the game. Automobiles, racing, speed, athletic events, swimming, boating. Mary set the English Channel racing record, single-handedly. Probably one of her most surprising feats was the single-handed driving record. For 24 hours, she drove a 4.5-liter Bentley, which is a huge vehicle, around the track in France, averaging 89.57 miles an hour, 24 hours. She had the record for speed across the channel and back, the speedboat endurance record. She had automobile endurance records and speed records. And one day in 1930, she, along with the rest of England, learned about the exploits of a young pilot named Amy Johnson who was flown from England to Australia in a small plane. Mary looked up and thought, well, Amy Johnson, who made this route from England to Australia, a route that had already been flown by a man, Amy Johnson was deluged with prizes, 2 new automobiles, a new airplane, a lecture tour, a song was written about her. She was Amy's sweetheart. Mary Bruce loved fame and fortune, and I am almost certain that she looked at this Amy Johnson and said, if she gets all of that from merely flying around with a man who's already flown, what would I get if I flew around the world? So the way she tells it is that she bought an airplane, decided to fly it around the world, went to the Automobile Club and got maps, and then started taking flying lessons. Pretty much how it happened, but not exactly. A few months later, she took off from Heston Aerodrome one morning, September 1930, and she flew around the world in a small airplane, 100 horsepower engine, no radio, yeah, sort of like that. Very similar to this one here. By herself, open cockpit around the world. Hello. The plane was not well equipped. It had no radio. She refused to learn Morse code, but it had this electronic transmitter that could say flying okay, flying in trouble, about to crash, and so forth. She had no parachute. The packing was such a problem. The weight was critical, the space was critical. At the last moment, she was asked if she wanted to take a parachute. She didn't want to take the parachute because what she wanted in that space instead was a dictaphone. Her husband settled the argument by saying, let her take the dictaphone, she'll never be happy if she's not talking. So the lady flew around the world in a little open cockpit plane with a dictaphone and made dictaphone records all the way along. It was not an uneventful flight. At one point, she was doing something called Flying by Bradshaw, which is looking over the side of your plane following railroad tracks. Flew around the mountain, and the railroad disappeared into a tunnel in the side of the mountain. She thought briefly about flying through it, and instead got out of that. She crashed several times in the Syrian desert, where she was rescued by the French Foreign Legion. She crashed on the shores of the Persian Gulf, where she was looked after by some Baluchi tribesmen, and were in there for 3 days. Had a forced landing by the Mekong River in Indochina, stampeded elephants, inadvertently in the jungle. Made it to Japan. She was the first person to fly across the Yellow Sea, which was the longest over-water flight since Lindbergh had flown the Atlantic. Her plane did not have the fuel capacity. She didn't have the skills to fly the Pacific. No one had flown the Pacific at that point. She folded the wings of the plane, sailed from Yokohama to British Columbia, flew down the coast of California, across the United States, stopped in Chicago, where she picked up a souvenir. The plane, the wings and the fuselage were covered with canvas, and people had been signing it. In Chicago, a new signature was added that said, "Hooray for Prohibition, Al Capone." Okay, so whether it was really Al Capone or somebody with a sense of humor at the airport, she got to New York after a couple of crash landings, sailed back to France, and returned home in Dine in February of 1931. When she got home in February of 1931, she did not get the kind of great reception that Amy Johnson had gotten. I think it has to do with the fact that the Depression had spread worldwide by then, and people didn't care so much about somebody who had flown around the world. They cared about whether or not their family had dinner that night and so forth. Mary was very good at reinventing herself. She didn't as much as she didn't allow the disappointment to show, she decided that aviation was the future, but for her it would be commercial aviation. She started airlines. She made it through World War II in spite of the fact that her 27 planes had been taken over by the government. She repaired RAF aircraft. She became a very wealthy woman, and eventually kind of a crusty old curmudgeon who raced around the countryside in her Rolls-Royce Phantoms now instead of her brother's Ferrari motorcycle. When she was 77 years old, she tested her Ford Petre because she still loved racing. When she was 81, she took a refresher course in flying and did a loop-the-loop over Bristol. She lived to be 94 years old, lived life on her own terms all the way through, and I wish I had known her. She wrote 5 books. One of them was an autobiography, which was very sanitized. She forgot a lot of things. She didn't mention a lot. This is the whole story, and she wasn't really much to that. Very